I remember walking down that hallway, and that day it seemed longer than it ever had before. Every step echoed, not loud, but enough to remind me that I'm alone in this moment. And it was cold. I was cold. I touched the brass doorknob, and it was cold. My heart was cold. I opened it slowly, and there she sat, well dressed, composed, with a stern, no nonsense expression on her face. She sat behind a desk that is enormous, not just big, but so large. And before I could fully step in, pointing to the small chair, sit, she said. And as I lowered myself in that chair, I could feel it. Like I've been here before. Not in this office, but years ago. Yeah, the principal's office, sitting across from a desk too big for me, just like that, waiting to hear what I had done wrong. The HR director looked down at the HR director looked down at the paper, then back up at me. This level of absenteeism is unacceptable. No pause, no question, no curiosity, just judgment. You've exceeded the maximum allowable amount of absences. And as she's going through my list of absences, I'm there thinking, yes, I've been absent and I struggled with that because I'm the kind of person that doesn't like to miss work. I hated to miss work. I'm the kind of person who is very responsible. I'm the program director after all. I'm the person you could depend on. I don't let people down. I was the one who worked 16-hour days, but what I had to think about was my sick grandma, my virtually abandoned husband, and my kids. The weight of those was like an elephant sitting on my shoulders. And then she slides the paper across her desk. Let me tell you about my elephant. I adored my grandmother. She raised me. She gave me everything. She gave everything up in her life for me to give me a better life. I owed her everything. And now she was sick, and I was all she had. There was no money to pay for caretakers or transportation services to take her to appointments. It was me. It was me. I was all that she had left. And then there was my husband. I loved my husband too. But then I never saw him because I was either at work or taking care of my grandmother. I never saw my husband. One night he even had to come to my job just to see me that day. And my children, they would cry when I would leave, asking, Mom, are you going to be home for dinner tonight? I miss you. Can we do some of the things that we used to do before? I was torn, deeply torn. The elephant that I was on my shoulders was getting larger and larger. And yet I know that I had a job. I know they were paying me. Of course, I know I needed to show up. I needed the money. We needed the money. My house needed the money. We had bills, right? I understood why we were having this conversation, but what was I going to do? I loved my job. And yet there were days, I couldn't be there because my grandma was fighting. My grandma was fighting to hold on, and I was the only one there beside her. But we needed the money. Understand this. We really needed the money. But I needed my family also. I needed my grandma. And that elephant for me was getting bigger and bigger. And I was getting more and more squashed. This isn't the first time. There had been other conversations. You're a strong employee, but consistency is important. It sounded supportive, but it didn't feel supportive because there was no space for my reality. There was no space for context. No one asking me, are you okay? No, just this needs to be improved. I remember nodding and agreeing, but on the inside thinking, my husband, my children, my grandma, my husband, my children, my grandma, my elephant. I'll do better on the outside, but on the inside, I had no idea how. I changed everything that I could. I changed my whole schedule as much as I could, and yet they called me in again and saying, I can see that there were some improvements. Yeah, just a little, but really, it's just not enough. Policy, 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 right? And as this time she's speaking to me, her voice is drowned out by a revelation that I had inside. Basically, something snapped, something changed in that moment. I thought, I don't care. I can't do this. I have to leave. And that day, after returning to my office, I made a decision. I wrote my resignation letter. And I went back into the HR director's office. I placed that letter on her desk and I walked down that long hallway. And with every step, the weight that once crushed me began to lift. And somewhere between the office door and the exit door, I didn't just leave, I became free. And in that moment, I realized that there were things that were important in life, and they were my husband, my children, my grandma, my family, me. Now that I've returned to work and I lead others, I lead differently. I carry those moments with me. I understand that, yes, standards matter. And yes, people even got to show up to work. But I also understand something deeper. How we hold people accountable matters just as much. So I'm grateful for that long, cold hallway. I'm grateful for that tiny chair because today the chair on the other side of my desk is never smaller than mine. I'm even grateful for those leaders who showed indifference because they showed me the type of leader I didn't want to be. And strangely enough, after all these years, I'm grateful for my elephant because it didn't weigh me down. It didn't even squash me. It shaped me into the leader that I am today.